So now that we've got everything for our art direction set up and we've got a basic idea of how patterns are constructed and we've made our blocks, we can actually jump in and start working on our first outfit, which is actually going to be the sport outfit that I created for the sample materials. So this is going to be a fairly form-fitting clothing with a couple different details that we're going to go into and a jacket that goes on top of that. So let's get started. I'm going to walk you through all of this, exploring just different techniques that we can use to make this outfit. So let's get started. And we've got the basic block here that we made in the previous section. And we're just going to start working on individual parts of this and making tweaks to each part. So first things first, what I actually want to do is we're just going to combine these two together right here at the waistband. And just really easy way to do that. Same thing that we did before. We're just going to use our free sewing tool. Just going to hold shift and going both from left to right. And then we're going to select all of these on the front. And then we're going to do the same thing on the back. Okay. And we're just going to sew that up. So then we've got a nice kind of one-piece bodysuit going on. All right. And then one thing that we actually want to add, so if I just hit Shift A, just bring back our avatar, is I want to add on some kind of socks or some an extension to these kind of shorts that we've got going so they fit a little bit more down towards the feet. So to do that, we're just going to do a really simple thing. We're just going to drag another rectangle out here. Really similar to how you would start a pair of pants. Just going to Control C, Control V, just copy and paste that. We're going to flip this normal, bring that back here. Okay. And then we're just going to sew this up like that. Okay, we're just starting to get some sort of sock going on here. And then we can just sew this up to the top here. Just like that. And we might have some issues with the sizing here, so we can just start to adjust that. And I'm just using the arrow keys here to move out these points on the side to just get it roughly in place. And then maybe we want to shrink the bottom just a little bit, just so it fits a little bit tighter. And then we just want to use our arrow keys to just push this down towards the angle. And it's okay if it intersects a little bit, it'll work itself out. And just gonna tighten that up a little bit here. And then we're just going to do what we did before for creating the symmetrical part for the bust, and we're just going to Control D, paste, and that's going to create a symmetrical piece. It's totally identical, and it's going to keep the sewing intact actually for us as well, because this is also symmetrical up here on the legs. Okay, and we're quickly getting somewhere where we've got the full body covered really quickly just from modifying that original block that we made. Now, if we want to actually start having some differentiation between these different pieces, what we can use is the fabric settings over here. So currently I've just got one set with a single color, but let's select these leg pieces and go over here and click Add. And that's going to create a new fabric for us, but it's not going to show anything up in the 3D view at the moment. We're going to need to select these and just add that right here. And then once you've added that onto your garment, you can go over to the fabric, click on that. And then if you go up to open here, there's a bunch of different fabric settings that it will take you to. And feel free to go through these and explore what works best for you. I found that the cotton canvas was a good place to start for me. And then if you go down here to this color, this little white square down here, you can click on that. And that's going to give you a lot of options to change the color of your fabric. So I'm just going to go with something really neutral for now. And I'm also going to edit my initial fabric, give that a different texture. I'm just going to go back to that cotton canvas. And then I'm going to give that a color as well. And that's just to help us visualize what we've been doing here. We can change all these colors and things once we get into Cinema 4D a bit later on. And as you can see, it's actually edited the normal map as well when you add these objects. So you've got a normal map here. You can change the intensity of that if you wish. And the opacity as well is also something you can change. Okay, and now something I also did that was kind of interesting for the pants that I'd like to show you is to cut out this little piece on the side here and actually increase the size of that piece so that we get the wrinkles, somewhat like we did when we were creating the curtain for the initial part of the Marvelous Designer section. So let's do that now. We're going to use internal lines actually to draw out a shape. We're going to cut it, and then we're going to increase the size. And in order to help us do this, I think what I'd like to do is combine these pieces on the side here so that we don't have this seam on the outside. So the way that we should do that is just select these two pieces, similar to how we did when we were using dart manipulation, but we're just going to merge these. And now that's just going to create a single piece for each side, each leg, and then you can see there's no seam here anymore. So let's move these down a little bit. And then we're just going to take our internal line tool, which is up here. It's the internal polygon line, G on your keyboard. And we're just going to actually draw a little shape here. Just start with a triangle for now. And then we can go up and convert this to a curve point. And then you can just see kind of what looks good for you. Just kind of adjust these curves here. I think maybe they should be a bit more towards the center. So maybe we should go a bit more, this way. To accentuate the hips in this area. And give us a nice little graphical element on the legs here. Yep. So just get this to somewhere that you think looks good. Yeah, let's go with something like that. And again, we're not going to be copying exactly one-to-one what we did before for the sample materials. It's very hard to do something like that, but we're going to get the right ideas and the techniques down that I use for the class so that you can hopefully learn from these and use them in whatever way you choose in your own designs. Okay, so let's just go in and maybe just add a couple more points to this just to round this out a little bit more. Again, whatever you see fit to do. It's really up to you. And that's what's fun about Marvelous Designer is it's so fluid, so interactive, so creative that you can kind of come in with any ideas and just make those a reality in here. So once we got that into a shape that we like, we can just select this and we're just going to hit cut and sew. And you can see what that's done is that's separated out this piece. It's still in the same place on the clothing, but if you select this, you can see that we have separated this piece from the rest of the garment. Okay. And now the cool thing that we can do here is we can actually just extend the length of this. Just like that. And let's pull this out over here, just so it doesn't interrupt too much with the socks. And since we've extended this, you can see that the sewing lines have been way stretched out. Now, when this sews together, when we simulate, you're going to see that really interesting wrinkled surface on the outside here. So let's do that. Okay. And now, in order to get the maximum effect here, we may need to go in and drop our particle distance down. So let's give that a try. We'll just go over here, drop this down to 10. And you can see we're starting to get this interesting wrinkle effect on the outside of the pants here. And I'm going to make these a different color too. So I'm going to go over and add a new piece of fabric, new fabric texture. I'm going to apply that. And then I'm just going to give it just that cotton canvas again. And then I'm going to give it a new color, just so we can differentiate between these pieces. Okay. As you can see, getting a really interesting wrinkle effect, and this will look a lot better once we actually up the particle distance when we get towards the end of the garment. And then actually down here, I think I want to just pull in these legs a little bit. They're looking just a little bit baggy around the knees. So that'll tighten things up a little bit, just because things are falling down quite a lot here. And something we can also do to help with that is if you select your model, just click anywhere on it, you're going to see these settings over here. And I've actually reduced the skin offset, so you can reduce that down to 1. The default is 3. I wouldn't go too much further than 1, as when we export this out into Cinema, there can sometimes be problems with the skin poking through the garment in specific places if we don't have this kind of protective bubble in between the skin and the garment. You can kind of see it here where the garment is actually floating a little bit off. All right, and then down here on the legs, I think I actually want to make some adjustments here too. I'd like to tighten it up around the ankles, so that's really easy to do. We'll just grab these points, push them in, resimulate, and we can continue to do that. Oh, and then to help this, I didn't even get to that, but when we were over here selecting on the avatar, we can see that we need to, we've got the skin offset at 1, but there's actually static friction and kinetic friction. And this just means the friction between the garment and the avatar. So currently it's set pretty low, so the garment's going to slide around quite a bit. So if you set both of these to 1, you'll have a lot stickier skin, you can think of it as. So the garment's not going to slide up and down. You can see it's not going to move as much when I pull on it. So you can keep that on or off depending on what you're doing.